World Tune Radio, where the world tunes in. The West Coast's premier podcast network.
Did you hear what she said?
You know?
What? Well, I heard.
Man.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Where on the street?
Girl, yes. She was working in the street.
And you and everybody else listens. That's crazy.
Hey, this is Nita B. Talks with Nita B. I'll be covering everything. Anything you wanted to know about, I got you. Let's talk about it on World Tuned Radio.
The West Coast's premier podcast network.
Hello, 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 and welcome. Happy Sunday to you. We're already in April, believe it or not, and you're back again with me. I am your host, Nita B, and thank you for joining me with Talks with Nita B. Right here on World Tuned Radio. We are live in Oceanside, and I have some beautiful and amazing people with me today. And we were sitting and chatting a little bit just before coming on the air, and we're talking about mental health, mental illness, mental health. And I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist or therapist by any means, but I've been to a lot of them to know just a little something. But I'm happy to have with me, and I want to introduce my guests to you, Jeannette and Tyrone. So let's welcome them here today on the set. Hi, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. So we're just going to jump right into it. Mental health is something that's very important to me because of just my past with domestic violence and whatnot, and doing therapy for it. And so this young lady that I know, Miss Jeannette, we met a long time ago, like back in 2012, I think. Yeah,
Right, correct.
2012, I was at a women's center, resource center working, and I had joined on as the case manager. And then from there, I got promoted to the volunteer coordinator, which was the best job ever. Had never done it before, but I reached out. I think I had over 50 volunteers, and I was trying to figure a way to engage the volunteers and to just make sure that I kept them on board. And the resource center, it is a center that caters to, or not cater, but supports the sexual assault response team, the domestic violence response team, and the hotline, the 24 hours, 7 days a week crisis hotline. And I found my gem at the time, which is Jeannette. And so she was in the pile of the volunteers, and we were doing a volunteer recognition. And right off the top, I looked at her chart of her answering all of these SART calls. And I was like, wow, this woman is amazing. I'm going to nominate her. And so that's what I did. I nominated her, and we became close. We started talking, and she became one of my go-tos because of her availability, but also too because of her passion to be there to support the women, who were domestically abused and sexually assaulted. So Miss Jeannette, tell me how you found the Women's Resource Center. How did you find the Women's Resource Center and start doing volunteer services for sexual assaults?
Good question. I think I was just looking for another way to help others, and I don't remember exactly how I found them, but Franche was working there,
yes,
at that point, and I was working under her when I first began.
Mm-hmm.
And I took the training that I needed, and
the rest is history.
The rest is history.
So, tell me, sexual assault. What was your reason for? I know you have a passion for it, but was there a personal connect with the reason that you wanted to be a victim? I mean, not a victim advocate, but a volunteer for the sexual assault, because they had the domestic violence, they had other things you could have done, the hotline, but you did specifically the sexual assault, which is, for those who don't know, so when someone is sexually assaulted, you're on call, and you can get that call anywhere ranging from 7 in the morning up until I think the time frame was 12 a.m. or so. But you go to the forensic hospital, and you are literally sitting in the forensic room with the victim who has just been sexually assaulted, and you're working with the forensic nurses, and they're doing the actual pelvic exam for the forensic pelvic exam. And some of those women are frightened, some of them are ashamed, and there's different dynamics that you're going into, but you don't know until you actually get there. So what prompted you to want to do the sexual assault?
Well, a couple of things, I guess. One was I was already in this kind of work that I am now, and dealing with people who have been sexually assaulted, and want to let go of those problems.
Yes.
So I was already doing that, and I also have a history that I had overcome, which led me to the work that I do now. That was what helped me to overcome it. And it was just a way to reach out and give back, and met some incredibly strong women and men.
Yeah.
Women aren't the only one who are abused.
Yes.
But it was where I felt I needed to be at that time in my life. But then as I aged, it got harder to get up at midnight or 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
And go out on a
It
assault
had nothing
call.
to do with the age, because I mean, even me, when I would do it, it just was like, especially if you do them back to back to back. And you're thinking you want to be there for the victims, but still you have to do the self-care for yourself as well. So yeah, you're still young anyway too. So yeah. So Jeannette, tell me, where were you born? Like, are you originally from California, or were you?
No.
I feel like I was going to say Texas.
Yeah, born in Texas, California raised.
Okay,
Yeah, born in Lubbock, Texas.
Oh, Lubbock, Texas. That's right. It's right down the street from me, because I'm Houston, Texas. So
Oh,
that's
well,
right.
there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
So she's my homegirl. Yeah. And so how did you end up in California?
Well, I come from a large family. My dad was one of 10 kids.
Oh.
And so I lived, I need to not say so often. But
It's okay. It's okay. Because I do it and yeah. You're good.
So yeah. So Dad had gone off course at one point, and ended up in prison. He had a check cashing scheme as a way to make some good money.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to ask you about that, because
which didn't go so well for him,
Yeah.
So when he got out of prison, he wanted to leave Texas and start a new life. And he so totally turned his life around. I mean, he was a phenomenal father. My mom had left when I was 2, so they weren't together anymore. And when he was in prison, I lived with my aunt, uncle, and grandmother, who were just stellar people. They were just wonderful.
Wow, awesome.
So he came out to California to start over, and did really well.
Now, speaking of when you were a little girl, what were your dreams? What were your aspirations? Because, usually when we're little, we're saying, I want a white picket fence and married with a lot of children and a dog and a cat, and, and just be happy with a husband and be a homemaker, which is nothing is wrong with that. And then some of us want to be lawyers, or a senator, a governor, president, or models, actors. What did you want to be when you were a little girl growing up?
Quite honestly, I never gave it a thought.
Oh, really? Okay.
I was just more living in the moment, and really didn't make plans. Even in high school, I still really didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I got married young at 18 to someone who turned out to be abusive, But so it took me a while to grow up and realize that I needed to do something to give back, and that was worthwhile. And I was a secretary for a while, and did different things. But
secretaries are good, especially now. Like, they're called admins, and they do a lot of work. like
Yeah.
a lot. So,
And I'm not a techie person.
Yeah.
I'm a people person.
yeah, more so
It's-
hands-on people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not either. I'm just learning how to do Instagram. So I mastered Facebook. So now I'm learning how to do Instagram. So let's get into, because I want to incorporate Tyrone in this as well. So speeding up, you've done the volunteer work at the resource center. You retired from that. And now explain to us, share with us what you are doing now. You were doing this kind of on the side when you were actually volunteering.
Yeah, I was
You were
already
doing
doing
this
it,
on the
yeah.
side. So
I started this path when I was 32,
Mm-hmm.
and my son was little.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because what happened is my stuff started to come back. You can only stuff it for so long.
Yep.
And the older we get, the more responsibility we carry,
Yeah.
the harder it is to keep suppressed
Yes.
trauma that we've had in
Yes.
our childhood.
Yeah.
So I knew I had to get some help
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. And of course, the only way I knew to go was traditional therapy, which didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I happened to be in a health food store one day.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I brought this.
Yes.
And I saw this book,
Uh-huh.
Stress Release. I'll turn it towards the
show
camera.
Yeah. And it's called Stress
Stress Release.
Stress Release. And who is the author of that, in case someone wants to check
Dr.
that out?
Wayne Topping.
Dr. Wayne
So
Topping. Okay.
it's an easy read. By the way, this is out of print at this point, but you can still find them used every once in a while.
Okay.
Mine's marked up and ragged.
Yeah. Yeah.
I read the book in a day. I tracked down Wayne Topping.
Oh, wow.
I lived in California. He lived in Washington at the time.
Uh-huh.
So I called him up out of the blue.
His phone number was on there?
No, I just found him through
wow.
research.
Wow.
Like
And
a
she said
stalker.
she's not tech savvy. Look at that.
And that was before we had as much internet.
Right.
Stuff as
Yeah.
So, I called him up and I just said, I need to learn to do what you do. I need to learn these techniques that are in your book.
Yeah.
So I did. I went up and studied under him, and then I would have him down to California to teach classes to others that might be interested. And so he was the kickoff for me with this and learning his technique. And then I went on to take multiple other classes like Tyrone's had. We've had Touch for Health, I think, and a couple others.
That's the only one so far. COVID kind of interrupted everything, but
that's true. But
Thanks,
he's had my classes, so he's been he's been studying under
Yeah,
me
you're
too,
good.
so.
You're good then.
she's a great mentor.
Yeah, she is. She's
Yeah.
awesome. So you
Thank you.
really were working and doing stuff and busy after you left from stepping down from volunteering, because I remember it, and we would hit and miss every now and then. And I think that during that time I was dating someone who was going through some mental health issues, and we were trying to get them in there. And unfortunately, it just didn't work. And we talked a little bit about, the stigma of mental health and trying to get a person to get in so that they can get the therapy that they need. And you do something that's different. Share with me and us how your therapy sessions are different from, because we were talking about going to the different therapists, and I've been to several therapists, and I've actually shared with others, doctors, about how I've gone in and I end up being the listener in my own session. And I'm like, how does that work? Like, what's happening here? And so talk a little bit, if you feel comfortable with sharing your experience that we were talking about when you went to a therapist one time and mum was the word, nothing was said. Talk a little bit about that.
That it was a frustrating experience because I knew that my history was coming back and I had to address it because I was just being triggered every time I turned around and I couldn't handle things.
Right.
And so I knew I needed help, and he was recommended, and really he's a nice guy. He's retired at this point, but he was a very nice guy. And so I referred to it as throwing up on his floor. I just dumped it all, and I don't know if he ever got a word in during the whole 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe asked a few questions, but I just was ready to talk and let these things
and
go.
release it. Yeah.
Release it. But what what kind of bothered me is that I didn't get any direction at that time, but also I noticed that he would frequently look at the clock to make sure that as soon as it was my 50 minutes was up, I was out the door. And he did cut me off in mid-sentence.
Wow.
And from I'm very visual, so my perspective was I had to clean up all my garbage and pile it in the car with me and take it. And I had an hour's drive up a hill home, you know, and I just knew that there was a better way out there. And that's when I went looking, and that's when I found this book from Wayne Topping.
Awesome. So this is really awesome. So now you're doing this work and you are a mentor, and Tyrone is coming under your wings and he's about to do some great work. Well, you are doing some great work right now. So talk a little bit, Tyrone, about how did you meet? How did you connect with Jeannette? And how did you come on board to start doing therapy like how she has been doing?
Yeah. So you kind of asked her, or you said some things to her before about, you know, we kind of have roles or we have ideas what we're going to do for our life. And I think a lot of people have pressure or they're put into certain roles, right? In my family, and this is nothing bad about my family, it just, we're all in construction. And so I'm going to be in construction.
Yeah.
You know, we're grown thinking that way.
Yeah.
And you don't really have permission to do something else. You know, so I always applaud people who kind of break past their bounds or break past what's expected of them, because that can be a really big pressure. So oftentimes when we talk about these conversations, there's trauma associated with not being okay.
Yeah.
For me, to be honest, I had a pretty good life. I didn't really have any traumatic experiences. And I think this is really key that some people need to acknowledge, is that it's okay to not be okay.
Exactly.
When you have not been through something also. So I just had a lot of social pressure and pressure from friends and things like that, that just weren't good for me because of my personality.
Right.
And so when my wife and we'd only been married a year and a half, I just got hit with autoimmune issues from stress and kind of living away. And nothing, not saying anything about her, but it was all placed on myself, living in a way that I didn't think I should have deep down inside. So I basically was walking around with a cane. I got narcolepsy, cataplexy. And fortunately, Jeannette is actually my wife's aunt.
Okay.
So this is another really important point, is that I had a great support system.
Yeah.
My wife was very supportive.
Yes.
When you don't feel good, all of a sudden out of nowhere, you kind of don't treat people well.
Yeah.
My parents, my sister, my entire immediate family was very supportive. A lot of people don't have that. And so I think it's very important that you need to realize, if you don't have a support system and you're alone, it's okay to go seek it out and put yourself first for a while.
Yes. And that support system can be through therapy. And we're about to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about when you're not okay, what you can do to get that support, that self-care, that support system that you need, whether it's through therapy, whether it's through family and a good friend or whatnot. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And this is the segment Mental Health. And we're talking about just staying healthy and being healthy mentally, and that if you're not okay, it's okay not to be okay. It's not. It's not. It is okay that you're not okay. This is what I'm trying to say. So you're watching Talks with Nita Beee right here on World Tuned Radio, and we'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned.
World Tuned Radio, where the world tunes in. The West Coast's premier podcast network.
Did you hear what she said?
You know what?
Well, I heard.
Man.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Word on the
Really?
street.
Girl, yes. She was working in the street.
And you and everybody else listening.
Crazy.
Hey, this is Nita Bee. Talks with Nita B. I'll be covering everything, anything you wanted to know about. I got you. Let's talk about it on World Tuned Radio,
the West Coast's premier podcast network.
I just want to live forever. I just want my shit together. I just want to ride away. I just want to ride away. I just want
Instincts going no, looking bad like a bat with an eye patch. All black through the woods with a backpack and a lit match. Spark one time, get the whole city looking like a dark shade of orange when I burn it down. What it is, what it do, hope. And everybody looking at me while I got them all in my sights. Picking them off, picking them out, looking like daylight in the night. And I'm killing so many if they really wanna get involved. And everybody falling from the elevator, now I'm bright rice in this. It's like I'm rice and take a bite, it's nice. And I have a nice time with it. By the time that it finds the way to the right side of him, not even a Heimlich can save him. A selective finger to you imbeciles. Tell me what's been getting into you, envy will kill you. She said I'm a gentleman, I admit a lot of women sit up on my ottoman. I don't give a damn like an auto with no time to kill. I'm feeling like the opposite of work, it's a work and it never been a purpose thing to me. I just do what I love and it works for me. So I'm breaking every check and put the money in the pushing me to be gunning to the finish and the getting of it. But everybody know I'm working in the sea, I do it differently. So only time will give me everything that I deserve, my end. Did you hear what she said?
Did you know? What?
I heard.
Man.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Word on the street.
Girl, yes, she was working in the street.
And you and everybody else listening.
That's crazy.
Hey, this is Nita B. Talks with Nita B. I'll be covering everything, anything you wanted to know about. I got you. Let's talk about it on World Tuned Radio,
the West Coast's premier podcast network.
Yeah.
Hi, and welcome back to Talks with Nita B. You're watching me live here at Oceanside, and I have my wonderful guests with me, Jeannette and Tyrone, and we're talking about mental health and how to stay healthy. And before the break, Tyrone was talking about that it's okay. Let me make sure I get it right this time, that it is okay if you're not okay. And so I want to just jump right back into the segment because I was telling Jeannette, I thought when she mentioned about she went to the therapist, the psychiatrist for her therapy, that she actually threw up on the floor. And I was like, okay, maybe this is why this man is saying like, no, but you're good. You're good. You're okay. Okay. So during the break, we were talking about people who are suffering with mental illness, mental health issues, and they're too ashamed to go to get therapy. And so, Jeannette, I want you to go ahead and jump in, and Tyrone, you too, to jump in because we're at the tail end of our segment. But this is something you said was very important about how the brain, the trauma, it really affects the brain and how your brain comprehends it or not. So go ahead and jump right into that.
And for instance, you and I could see the same stressful or traumatic event. Mm-hmm. We could witness a bloody, deadly car accident on the freeway, and we're going to come away with two different perceptions, and we're going to have different views of it. How it impacts us is going to be different. Mm-hmm. It's going to be based on our upbringing and the amount of stress that we've had or having currently. So there's all sorts of things that factor in on what causes one person to handle a traumatic event differently than the other person. So when we do this work, what we're looking for is we want the person, of course, to tell us everything, and it's very personal and
throw
private.
up on the floor. Throw
yeah,
up.
we want you to do that.
Yeah, do
we
it.
want to know. And then again, how that event impacted their brain is going to be unique. So their perception of the event is going to be unique, and so we have to find exactly what that perception is, because we will even have negative perceptions that we think serve us.
Yeah.
You know, like growing up, my negative perception is you can't trust men. And then of course I marry a man that I turned out I couldn't trust. Well, but these things they're limiting belief systems, but they color our world nonetheless.
And I think your mind, it formats that. You think it and you say it for so long that it actually becomes something that is manifested in your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So that's where was I?
You were just saying, I'm sorry. I had to get my little input on it.
So how this work is, we do incorporate feedback from the muscles. And the reason is that you can sometimes tell by watching someone if they're having a bad day. They don't have to tell you. You can see by how they carry themselves, how they walk, how they interact. So the muscles are a great feedback mechanism when they're stressed. We get tired when we're stressed.
Yeah. Irritable, cranky.
Yeah. So it's a technique that we've refined to help get that as feedback from someone if they're having a hard time putting words to it or a particular emotion to it. And the muscle helps confirm or deny. It's all it is, because if it's stressful, it will weaken the muscle.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what muscle we use, any muscle. We just happen to use the deltoid.
Yeah.
It will weaken. If it's not an issue and they are handling it just fine, the muscle will stay strong. It will maintain its integrity.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of seeing how the body responds to that particular issue that we're dealing with. And then what we look for is, again, the particular emotion. You will have a dominant emotion. You might have 5 or 6. There will be one that's dominant.
Oh, wow.
And so it's identifying the emotion. And then there's steps that we go through to clear it so that the brain lets it go.
Oh, wow. That's like some real brain therapy.
Do you want me to take the time to do that or explain that, or should I
release? I think you just, like, my brain just had a release.
And again, we all do this when we're stressed or when something happens. We'll go, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe this just happened.
Right. Yeah.
It's automatic for the hand to go to the forehead.
Wow.
So what they discovered, not me, people before me, is that these points on the forehead, there are points in their stress release points. That's why we often do hold our head when we're stressed, because when something traumatic happens, the blood goes to the back brain and triggers the fight or flight response.
Wow.
Because we might need to fight for our life, run for our life.
Yeah. Survival.
Survival. So now the blood is leaving the brain and going to the internal organs so that we can run or fight.
I've just been really schooled on the brain. Wow.
Yeah.
So, Tyrone, you've been doing this for a minute. What is the most rewarding thing for you since you've been working with clients? What have you been seeing that's been rewarding?
Well, I'll go back a little bit and just say that the reason why I started getting into it is because obviously it was a massive effect on me physically, which is obviously we think, oh, I have this mental stress and it's going away, or these negative belief systems and they're going away. But physically I felt healthier. You know, I didn't have as much back pain, you know, because sometimes we question whether this actual muscle testing thing is going to work. Well, think about a massage therapist. They'll say something like, wow, you carry your stress in your shoulders, you know, or in your neck. So once you go through something, you start seeing people around you and it's like you're looking at a mirror. Like, oh man, this kid, he's only 14 years old. He's going through what I went in my 30s.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. And he doesn't know where to go. And there's not very many people doing this work. It's a very small pool.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I just really enjoy connecting with people. And so that was it. You know, it's kind of just, there was such a need. And I felt like I could fulfill that need because, again, I did have a good support system and most people don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And so you getting into this field of study, is it because you are, hands-on with people and like meeting people and helping, like in social services, we all want to make a difference in someone's life. Is that how you came to start doing this, working in that field, or?
Yeah, I mean, once I went through the process of clearing my stuff, you kind of get a little more self-aware. You start having permission to listen to, what's in here, not just dominate by what's in here.
Right. Yeah.
And I started realizing, like, oh, growing up, I always tried to solve problems between everyone around me, my friends. And so I just realized that it was something that I liked doing was talking things out, getting real with people, having real deep conversations about what's going on in here and connecting. And it's just something that I do to people almost to an annoying extent without being able to shut it off sometimes, because a lot of people don't like doing that, and that's fine too.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So Jeannette, you are passing the torch to Tyrone, so to speak. You have a book coming up. Can you talk about that?
Provided I finish that book.
She will finish it. You're going to finish
well,
it.
it's the title of the book is the Insightful Change Process. And that's what I call what we do.
Yes.
Is because both of those things, you have to have insight into yourself, and then you have to create a change.
Yeah.
And this change will become permanent. Once we do the exercises and whatever is required for that individual, you don't go back. You just get better and better and better.
Yeah.
So that's what the book is. It explains the techniques and why they work, the physiology behind it. And that pretty much is there. I just have to finish.
Okay. And we'll have her back once she's done with the book so that she can talk about it. And we're going to have Tyrone back too. So are there any other books that you wanted to share that are self-help books?
Just real quick.
This one? Yeah.
This one is the most important. A good one is called Transforming Your Dragons.
Oh, how to turn fear patterns into personal power.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really awesome.
This is an excellent book. And Feelings Buried Alive Never Die.
Okay. Feelings Buried Alive. Okay. And raise that other one up again just a little bit so they can see that one. These are some good books if you're into self-help and wanting to, kind of transform the brain, if you will. Let's talk about really quickly about why people feel that not being okay, that it's something really wrong with that. I mean, I know society has promoted that in such a way to feel like if you're depressed or if you have PTSD or anxiety or if you're suicidal, that it's really something wrong with you. Can you shed a little light and give a little information to that we all are chemically unbalanced, some more than others, and it's nothing wrong with that? Can you expound on that just a little bit?
I can start.
Yeah.
So I do, in my experience, it was a lot of just your peers, the people you're around, and you grow up and maybe your parents or maybe someone around you, an adult, is saying something like, "Oh, that person's crazy." They don't mean it in a mean way,
right.
But we kind of get dominated by these definitions, and nobody wants to be crazy. So then when you start having some issues, you start bearing that along on top of the issues you have. You start bearing the fact that you might be anxious, or depressed, or you're like, oh, maybe it was something I ate, but it's like, no, it's just you need to take some time for yourself. Really, that I think that really is the main thing that I see over and over again, especially with men, because there is a lot of pressure.
Their ego too.
We're in a capitalist world. Type A personality is promoted in school. What's your performance like? But really, all men and women can fulfill any role that the other person has.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
A man can be an emotional person and be a great therapist. And a woman can be a CEO.
Yeah.
And run any company she wants. So we kind of need to get away from these definitions. And just start accepting ourselves. Yeah. And then we can maybe start accepting each other.
Removing the titles of, And I just wanted to say, if you're out there and you are experiencing depression, anxiety, PTSD, if you feel like you are suicidal, you can go to your website, Can you share that? But more so, if you're feeling this way, I mean, please get help. Like, I want Jeannette to share her website because they are helping with this technique, which I'm going to look more into and finding more information. But if you feel that you have anxiety and panic attacks and PTSD, depression, all of those things, it's okay. Sometimes it happens. And the world that we're living in, the pressure of our daily lives add to it. Like, I think that I may not know what I'm talking about, but it's just like this. It's just like the water. So to do an analogy real quick. So this is where we are in our daily world in our life. And all of the pressure and whatnot fills up to the to the bottle. And we get so full of the water in the bottle. But when you're seeing a therapist or whatnot, this is what the therapy does. It takes away that pressure, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'd like to point out an important point too, is that as you're learning this technique with a coach, we're referred to as coaches, insightful change coaches. And as you're working through these issues, you're learning how to do this for yourself.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to always be around and ready.
Right.
So you will learn the techniques and they're great self-help techniques when you can't get to somebody and have a conversation. So that's another perk to it.
Yeah. And it's awesome. And while we're doing, can you go ahead and share your website so that, at least so that they can look and get more information and see about the insightful change coaches, if they want to read up on it and just see where you are and see how your techniques work, and if they're interested, what's a website that they can go to?
It's createbalance.net, N-E-T.
createbalance.net.
Yeah. And there's a tab there for the insightful change method. And yes, there's quite a bit to read. Not over, it's not like a book, but I wanted people to read it and come away with, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I get how this is different and how this
It's a formula that actually works.
Yes.
Because as you were sitting here explaining it, I was like, I think that my brain like kind of released to something like a little nugget, like, and I was like, oh, so yeah. And that's really amazing that we have people. And the thing that I like about you, Jeannette, and Tyrone, and we were, Tyrone and I were able to talk a little bit in the hallway before we came on air, and just the genuineness of just wanting to really help people, because like we shared, Jeannette shared about her therapy session where the therapist was just looking at the clock and just sitting there. And I've had the experiences myself where they don't know how to connect to you. It's just like, okay, this is a service. We have to make sure your insurance was approved. And we know that you're Medicare, TRICARE, whatever. And you're in here and you're sitting and you're telling me about your session. And you only have about 30 minutes just to get the intro in. And that takes up just like your date, your age, date of birth, and Social Security, the reason why you're here, because it's a process. And I'm sure it's a process with what you all do as well. But you have to continue to go through the process in order to see results. Speaking of which, how long does it take when you are doing the insightful change with the client? How long does it take to see the turnaround? Or how long has it taken for you all to see a turnaround with the client?
Oh, they'll shift before they leave.
Yeah. Oh, we were talking about the shift.
Yeah.
But the shift's about, wow, that's really effective.
Yes, it's very effective.
Just to specify, when you said shift, you mean specifically that the mindset or the negative belief system, the negative story in someone's head has changed to that, oh, it is okay for me to be afraid of failure, you know, or whatever it is that they're afraid of. That's just a common example. So sometimes it takes a little longer, and that's fine too, you know, and that's the thing, is that, you know, maybe it'll be a long session, maybe it'll be a short session, but whatever it is for that person is fine. And they might have to work a little bit longer on it or a little shorter on it.
Because every person is different.
Yeah.
Like how you said, every person is different. If we saw something that's traumatic, you may take it and say, okay, wow, that was really sad, to whereas I take it and I'm going to sleep and I'm thinking about it and replaying it over and over and over in my mind. And I'm just like, oh my God, so the impact of how you said the trauma from growing up and all of that ties in, which is really, that's really something that it's just really amazing and shocking and really interesting to say the least. But I was going to ask you about, so Jeannette, you're writing this book and you are with resigning from the Insightful Change. Where do you see yourself 2 years from now? Or where would you like to see yourself 2 years from now?
Well, I like, I'll probably still be doing volunteer work to some degree, and hopefully training more people like Tyrone.
Awesome.
There's 3 right now that I'm training. One is in Iowa and 2 are out here in California. So I would like to see that growth in teaching more people to do this, because there's a need for this type of work. So.
Now, with the training of that, if someone's watching and saying, oh, me, I want to join on board, what are the specifics? What are the qualifications or the requirements that go along with being an Insightful Change coach?
Well, just about anybody can learn it. Compassion for others is really the key. If you have compassion and you want to reach out and help. Another key aspect is you can't take someone somewhere where you're not willing to go yourself. So you have to work your own issues, because you have to be clear enough to be able to guide somebody else to work theirs.
And I'll translate that. So for the Barney style, if you can't help somebody else if you haven't been helped yourself. So point blank period with that. So Tyrone, what about for you? Like, where do you see yourself in 2 years with being an Insightful Change coach? Like,
well, I would like to do it full time for sure. I really enjoy just the process, and it's so rewarding when you help people. You ask anybody who seems like they found their purpose, and it's usually helping people. But it is a little bit of a transition, just because one story that Jeannette says all the time is, if you don't mind me sharing, when you were a single mother, you were going through this, right? And so a lot of single mothers can't afford, in their minds that they can afford this. So we try to keep the cost really low.
Right. Yeah.
Also, we live in San Diego, so it's expensive to live. So, so I'm transitioning, and it's a little bit slow how to support myself doing it, and maybe get some other avenues of income so we can make it something that's available for the people who need it the most. But hopefully full time in 2 years.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Lord, I just ask that you open doors for Tyrone, that he may be able to do this full time. Bless him with his heart's desires, and that he will be a vessel that will be used unto you greatly and powerfully. And you get all the praise and the glory and the honor and recognition with it. Would you all like to say any shout outs before we get ready to say goodbye?
Let me go first. Okay, I'll go first. I kind of mentioned it before, but just especially to my wife, Cassandra.
Hey, Cassandra.
She's always been there for me, and I haven't been the easiest to get along with at times. And so she's very patient, very supportive. And then of course my parents too have always been there, and my sister, and really all my extended family. And then of course my in-laws too, including Jeannette here, but her family too has been very supportive. So
awesome. Miss Jeannette, anybody?
Well, I will have to say as well that my husband is incredibly supportive with what I do, and helps me in whatever I need, whether it's finding a new office to lease, which Tyrone, I don't know if you want to mention, that might be coming up in the future, where we will be back in an office again. I gave it up for the pandemic.
Oh,
but,
yay.
He, so he's incredibly supportive. My sister was there from the very beginning. She was my practice buddy when I was learning to do this, which is his
mother-in-law.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Support is very important, because with support, you can do anything. You can achieve your dreams, whether it's a slow process or a fast one. If you have the support behind you, there's nothing that you can't do. So on that note, we are about to go. I think that we said everything. This book right here, if you don't mind, this one just kept it stuck out with me. Stress Release. This. Oh, there we go. Stress Release. So if you want to get this, and I think you said that it was out. You still order it on Amazon? You can probably find it on Amazon.
You can find used ones.
If you want to do stress release, self-help, this is a good book. I'm going to check this out myself for stress release. So on that note, I thank you all so very much for coming. Thank you for being on here. I look forward to having you back to follow up and update us with any new changes once you open the office and get more clients. And please make sure that you check out Jeannette's website and go there so you can get your insightful change. It has been wonderful and great. And as always, thank you for joining Talks with Nita B right here on World Tuned Radio, live in Oceanside. Until next time, stay blessed. Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. Have a great week, you all. God bless. Bye.
World Tuned Radio, where the world tunes in. The West Coast's premier podcast network.